On today's show, Cavs lose to the Celtics on Wednesday night, and I don't think it's time to panic. That'd be an overreaction. However, I do think that there are a few things that are concerning coming out of this loss. We'll talk about what those are and what they mean on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name's Danny Cunningham, and I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at my Substack, The Inside Shot. Thank you for making today's edition of Locked On Cavs your first listen. And thank you to those of you that make Locked On Cavs your first listen every single day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. Please do us a favor. Make sure you're subscribed. Leave us a nice rating and a nice review as well. And tell a friend about the podcast, because that is the very best way you can help grow this show. We're also available on YouTube each and every day. You can find us there right about 7:15 in the morning every single day. And if you're watching, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Cleveland Cavaliers on Wednesday night lost to the Boston Celtics 125-105. A lot of things went wrong in this game. I think some of them are worth being concerned about. I think some of them are not worth being concerned about. And there were actually a few good things that happened in this game. We'll talk about all of that, but I want to start with the bad, because this was a game that I feel like the score was correct. Like, the Cavs were able to get it within 9 in the fourth quarter. Ultimately, this, for much of the night, to me, felt like a 20 to 25 point loss. Like, it felt like a blowout loss for most of the time after the first quarter. And I think the game was tied at 57 midway through the second quarter, maybe 3 or 4 minutes left in the second quarter. And Boston closed out the quarter on a 20-3 run, right? Like, they just absolutely took command at that point and never looked back. And I thought a big part of the reason why the Celtics took command of that game was, yes, they made a lot of shots, and the Celtics deserve a lot of credit for making a lot of shots. They made 21 threes. They started off incredibly hot from three, and the Cavs were too. I mean, the Cavs were, I believe it was 10 of 12 in the first quarter, which is why they had a 42-40 lead after one quarter. Their defense was bad, but offensively in the first quarter, it's like, oh, this is just an incredible display of shot making. But it did feel like, in watching that live, it felt like, okay, well, the Celtics here, just the way they're playing, the way they're getting their shots, the types of looks that they're creating, the offensive rebounds, the second chances that they're getting, that felt a little bit more sustainable to me than what the Cavs were doing. And ultimately that proved to be true, obviously, in a 20-point victory. But Boston was able to take command because they were hitting shots. They were getting great looks. Like, I thought that their shot quality that they got was much higher than the shot quality the Cavs got throughout the night, even if the Cavs had that great offensive first quarter. But it was also, I thought, consistently throughout the night, the Boston Celtics did the little things. They played harder. They were a better rebounding team by a wide margin. I mean, they had 18 offensive rebounds in this game. They had 23 second chance points in this game. You're going to win more often than not when you dominate the hustle stats the way the Boston Celtics dominated the hustle stats. And I think the thing that should be most concerning about this is Boston's not a good rebounding team. Yes, they have been okay as far as offensive rebounding goes. They came into Wednesday night with the 10th best offensive rebounding percentage in basketball. So, like, that's pretty good. Top third of the league. But in total rebounding, the Celtics were 29th. They had the 29th rebounding rate in basketball. There are only 30 teams in the NBA. That is the second worst. They were 25th in defensive rebounding. And if you look at the way that these two rosters are built, Boston is a team that, yes, they are not the Boston Celtics of old. And yes, they are missing Jason Tatum. But for the most part, the team that the Cavs saw, like the team that the Celtics played tonight, is who the Boston Celtics are going to be this year. They're not going to change very much. If they do, they're probably going to get a little worse because they'll try and duck the tax at a certain point. But that's a different discussion for a different day and does not pertain to what happened to the Cavs on Wednesday night. But they have some good players in the backcourt. Obviously, Peyton Pritchard is a good player. Won Sixth Man of the Year last year. Derek White, a very, very good player. I think Anthony Simons is a good player. Jaylen Brown is an all-NBA player. All those guys, and I know that Jaylen Brown technically was like the starting four on Wednesday night, but all of those guys, to me, are point guard through small forwards. Even Josh Minot is like that type of player. He's not someone that I consider a big. They've got Nemish Queta. They've got Luka Garza. Like, I think those two big guys are probably below replacement level bigs. Like, I just don't think that they are guys that you can have if you are in the postseason. I don't think those two big guys are rotation players. I do not think that they are playoff rotational bigs, and they outplayed Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. And that is the biggest problem out of this game. Jarrett Allen, like, he scored the ball well. He hit his free throws. He did some good things. It wasn't all bad, but he had 6 rebounds. That's unacceptable. And Jarrett has not rebounded the ball at all very well to start this year. I know he had a good rebounding game. I believe it was against Detroit where he I think got 11 rebounds. Like, but other than that, it's been very, very unimpressive, his start to the season. His scoring's been fine, but the Cavs need him to rebound. That's what they need. They need him to be a force as far as that goes. And he cannot have like the night he had against the Knicks where he only had 5. He can't have a night like he had on Wednesday night against the Celtics where he only had 6. Evan Mobley, I thought was a little bit better than Jarrett. And I think his box score is even a little bit misleading. Like, he had 19 points, he had 11 rebounds, but it didn't feel like he was super forceful. If anything, he was a minus 22, and it felt like it. Like, it felt like the Cavs were worse when Evan Mobley was on the floor on Wednesday night, and you very rarely feel that way. But watching this, it felt like he couldn't get anything accomplished that he wanted to. Like, his handle, to me, I expected to be much better coming into this season. It has not been very good. He had 3 more turnovers in this game. And just overall, like, I do think it's a little fair to be disappointed with what we've seen from Evan Mobley so far. He's not been super efficient. He's not been the offensive fulcrum that I thought he could be, that I think a lot of people thought he could be. With Darius Garland out to start this season, I thought it would be a moment where he could really shine and he could elevate this offense and he could give the Cavs offensively a lot of different ways that they could attack opponents. And to me, so far, I think the biggest, and offensively, outside of that first quarter, it was very clunky. Like, the first quarter was awesome. They scored 42 points. They hit 10 threes. It's hard to look bad offensively when you hit 10 threes in a quarter. In fact, I would argue that no team ever has looked bad in a quarter where they've hit 10 threes. But I think a lot of the clunkiness is what Evan has been trying to accomplish. And I don't think that he's been decisive enough. I do think when he's been aggressive enough, it's looked good when he's been able to hang on to the basketball. I think his handle's not been tight enough. And I think that opposing teams have recognized that and have tried to put a lot of pressure on him when he has the ball in his hands. And I think that has been a strategy that has worked so far. He shot 8 threes on Wednesday night, which I think is a little high. And the Celtics are a team that is going to allow 3-pointers, certainly. That's how their defense is built right now. And the Cavs took a ton of them. They took 52 threes on Wednesday night. So, like, some of those are going to come from Evan, certainly. But overall, I just didn't like the game that he had on either end of the floor. The Cavs cannot, and he had 11 rebounds. So I think that he is a little bit less guilty than Jarrett Allen in that department, but he also played 9 more minutes than Jarrett Allen did. I do think Jarrett Allen, or I want to say, I think Evan Mobley was better than Jarrett Allen in this game, but I don't think that was necessarily the highest bar to clear. Like, I think that was one of the biggest problems for the Cavs, is that they just really struggled to rebound. That cannot happen against a Boston Celtics team that the Cavs are better than. Like, this Celtics team is nowhere near as talented as it was last year. There's no Kristaps Porzingis. There's no Drew Holiday. There's no Jason Tatum. Like, this team in Boston right now is, I think, a borderline play-in team. I think there's a world where they win 40 games and they're the 8th seed. I think there's a world where they win 35 games and they're the 11th seed. I think either one of those things could happen in Boston. They're going to have games like tonight where they hit a lot of threes, and credit to them for hitting those threes, but I thought they did a very good job of creating those shots. Like, I was, after what we saw on Monday night against the Pistons, who I think if you were to combine Detroit and Boston right now, Detroit has the best player. I think Cade Cunningham, of those two teams, I think Cade Cunningham is the best player right now on either one of those teams. Now, after that, Jaylen Brown is second, Derek White is third. Like, then it leans Boston a little bit, but I do think overall too, the Pistons are a better team right now. And what we saw, even if they're not going to be great offensively, but what we saw the Cavs do to them with their defense, I came away very impressed with. If you listen to Tuesday's episode, you know that. Like, I thought it was an incredibly impressive defensive performance by the Cavs, and I thought that would carry over into Wednesday against a team that is lesser, in my opinion, than what the Detroit Pistons are right now. And I think the opposite of that happened. Like, I did not think that they did a good job putting pressure on the basketball. If you go back and watch that game Monday against Detroit and then watch the game on Wednesday against the Celtics, go look at the difference in how frequently the Cavs were able to pressure the basketball. It felt on Wednesday night to me like they could not pressure the basketball whatsoever, and that helped to generate a lot of really good looks for Boston. And the Celtics have, listen, like, this Celtics team is not last year's Celtics team. It is not a Celtics team, in my opinion, that is capable of going out there and winning the finals, but they still have a lot of capable guys. They're not a bunch of bums. Like, this is still a good basketball team. It's not a great basketball team. It's not a threat to win the Eastern Conference as constructed, but they're not a bunch of bums. Derek White, very good player. Jaylen Brown, awesome player who had an awesome game. Sam Hauser hit 7 threes. Like, they've got a lot of capable guys. Anthony Simons hit 4 threes. They have a lot of guys that are capable of doing damage if you allow them to. And I thought the Cavs defense allowed them to, because I thought, quite frankly, I thought the Celtics played much harder than the Cavs did on Wednesday night. I thought that was the biggest difference. And there are things I think to be concerned about. Like, the rebounding issue is one to be concerned about. You cannot allow 18 offensive rebounds in a game to anyone, especially to an undersized team. And yeah, the Celtics played harder, and that created a lot of that. But the Cavs have so much more size in their front court that should never, ever happen to them. So I think the two people you're probably most disappointed with are Evan and Jarrett, because those are the guys that are tasked with going to get rebounds. You should not out-rebounded, period, by a team that came into Wednesday night 25th in rebounding. That should not happen. They were 29th in defensive rebounding. Cavs only got 11 offensive rebounds. Nemish Queta had 13 boards. Josh Minott had 14 boards. Minott, sorry. I don't know why I want to say that wrong. Josh Minott had 14 boards. Those guys should not have more rebounds than Jarrett Allen, than Evan Mobley. That should not be the case. So I do think it's fair to be disappointed in that, because if we look at the way that this team is built, I think that is something that they need to be so much better at than they are. The Celtics look like the hungrier team. And on some, I am in some ways willing to look past that, because ultimately, you're listening to this the morning of October 30th, which is a long time from when this team needs to be at its best. And I think that is something, I didn't want to talk about that next, but I wanted to save that for later. I'm going to dive into that next, because I do think it's important to not overreact to this. It's worth being frustrated over. I thought this was easily a much more frustrating game than what we saw on opening night in the Cavs loss to the Knicks. But I also think that you need to sometimes take a step back and take a deep breath with where things are at. So we're going to do that next right here on Locked on Cavs. But first, today's show is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. The Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. The swivel screen, total game changer, because you can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. Plus, the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged, so you get workouts tailored to your vibe and your energy level each and every week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. That is OnePeloton.com. Again, onepeloton.com. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked on Cavs your first listen. Thank you for making Locked on Cavs your first listen every single day. I wanted to save the whole don't panic thing for the third segment, because I wanted to talk about some of the good things that some guys did. Like, I thought Jaylon Tyson had a good game, which I think is a good sign. And we will talk about coming up in segment number 3. But I want to talk about like the panic aspect of things right now, because I do think every time the Cavs lose, there is a little bit of a sense of panic over the fan base. And I sensed it on opening night. And I don't think it's the majority of fans. I think it's some fans. And I do think that it's funny how some of the fan base is none of this matters until the postseason, which I think is a fair take. Like, if you don't think that what the Cavs do in the regular season matters until the postseason, that's your right to do so as a Cavs fan. But I also think if you think that way, you can't be mad about games like this one. Now, if you are somebody that is, the Cavs need to build the right habits, they need to attack this regular season, they cannot operate on cruise control, then this is a loss to be mad at. Like, I think it's very fair to be upset with this loss if you are the type of fan that is like, no, they need to do the right things during the regular season. What is going on right now? But I also think that it's important to take note of where we are and what's going on, because I think everything I talked about in the first quarter is concerning. It's not concerning because it happened in this game. It's concerning because there have been signs of this, right? Like, the Cavs, for as much size as they have played with, they've never been a great rebounding team. And that is something that shouldn't be the case. When you play two bigs, you should be a great rebounding team. That is an area where you should have an advantage almost every single night. Now, there are going to be some matchups that aren't great. Like, there are going to be other teams that play with two bigs, and those teams might have a rebounding advantage. But when you square off against a team that not only does not play big, because the Celtics don't, but also is one of the worst rebounding teams in basketball, and you get decimated on the boards the way the Cavs did, it's fair to be frustrated. It's fair to be upset. It's fair to be concerned. But I also think that at times we need to take a step back and remember some things. One, right now it is October 30th. As you listen to this, it is 10:59. 11 o'clock. The clock just changed. It is 11 o'clock, October 29th, as I speak into this microphone right now. Right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers are not a championship caliber team. Right now, they do not have a championship caliber roster. They have a lot of very good players. And when they are fully healthy, I believe, and I think a lot of people believe, that they have a championship caliber roster. When they have Darius Garland, when they have Max Strus, when they have Sam Merrill, when they have all of these pieces, because right now they are missing 3 of their top 7 players. And that is not nothing. That is something that it's a frustrating thing to lean back on. And organizationally, I don't think the organization should sit back and say, well, none of this matters until Darius Garland is back, or none of this matters because Max Strus is somebody that can help us out in some of these areas where we're a little bit deficient right now, or none of this matters because Sam Merrill's not available and the things that he can provide, nobody else really can. Like, all of those things might be true. It's not the way the organization should feel. And I don't, to be fair, to be clear, I don't get the sense that that's how the organization feels about all this. But I look at this and say, well, would Darius Garland help make this offense look better? This offense that has looked kind of stuck in mud for good portions of the first 5 games of the schedule. It's hard for me to think anything otherwise. Like, knowing what Darius Garland provides, knowing what he did last year in his first season under Kenny Atkinson, it's hard for me to sit here and say, yeah, no, the offense would look the same with Darius Garland. Like, I just don't believe that to be true. I think the offense will get better. And of all the things to be concerned about right now, I think the offense is so far down the list. Like, offensively, they're so talented. They will figure it out. Maybe Evan Mobley is not doing everything we expected him to do on that end of the floor. That part I think is true. If you want to be concerned about something offensively, that might be the thing. But I do think a lot of their offensive issues are solved not only with Darius Garland coming back, but some of the other guys that have been pushed up because of not just Garland's injury, but Strus and now Sam Merrill too, and even DeAndre Hunter for the first couple of games of the season. I think the role players that have been pushed into bigger roles, when they slide back into the roles they should be in, will look better. And I think a lot of the offensive issues will go away when that happens. So I don't think, of all the things to be concerned about, I just don't think that the offense is something worth being concerned about at this moment. Now, if it looks like this in 3 months, when Darius Garland is back and, should be fully healthy, looking like Darius Garland, If it looks like this when they're fully healthy, okay, we'll talk about it. But until that happens, because of the way they can affect things, those injured guys can affect things in that area. Not worth being upset about right now. Not worth being concerned about right now. So I think that is part of it. And two, it is, as I said, October 30th. Now, last year, we know the Cavs started 15-0. They had this magical start that nobody saw coming. But 5 games into the season, did you consider the Cavs to be a championship caliber team? I didn't. I thought, this is a nice winning streak to start the season. They had wins over Toronto, who stunk, Washington, who stunk, Detroit, who early in the season was not very good. They got very good later on in the season. The Lakers, very average team. The Knicks, that was a very nice win on the road. Darius Garland had a great game in that one. But there wasn't a moment in the first 5 games like, man, this Cavs team is going to win 60-plus games. Like, no, this is a nice start. We'll see what happens. I think that it's so early in the season that you have to take a deep breath at times. And you have to say, yeah, they don't look good right now. They don't look anything close to what we expect them to be right now. But it's October. And if we're saying this at the end of November, if we're saying this at the end of December, I think it becomes a different story. I think then there become reasons to actually be concerned about this team. Again, there are things to be concerned about, but there's nothing that I've seen so far that because it's happening in October, I say, you know what? See, Cavs can't win. Cavs are not going to be good because of this thing that happened in October. I think that's an overreaction. And I don't think that is something that is worth doing at this point in the season. I do think at times we need to take a little bit of a deep breath and say, hey, it's 5 games into the season. Yeah, they didn't look good in Boston on October 29th. They didn't look good on opening night. They didn't look good for stretches against the Nets. They didn't look good for stretches against the Bucks. They mostly look good against the Pistons. That's okay right now. It is not something that they don't need to be a championship team in October. They're not a championship team in October. They need to be a championship team in April, in May, and June. They need to build up to that. That build up very clearly is going to look different than it did last year. And I just think that a lot of their problems, especially on the offensive end of the floor, will be solved when they're healthy. The rebounding is the thing that I look at and say that needs to get fixed. That's the thing that's concerning. But I do think defensively, they need to be much better than they were. And this is not an excuse. And nobody wants to hear what I'm about to say. But I do think it matters. And the Cavs are not going to lean on this crutch, but I just think it matters. The Cavs so far have played 5 games, right? They've played 2 games in New York, a game in Cleveland, a game in Detroit, now a game in Boston. They have played, counting, as of last night. Last night was their 4th game in 6 nights in 4 different cities. That is not an excuse. But I do think when you look at some of the 50-50 balls they don't get, some of the closeouts that don't look as good as they should defensively, I think some of those things, this is not excusing this loss whatsoever, because I've already talked about all the things that went wrong and all the things that I am concerned about. But I do think some of those things you can look at and just say, you know what? This is a shorthanded team with guys that have been in and out of the lineup that is a little bit tired, considering that they've played now 4 of their 5 games away from home, and they've played 4 games in 6 days in 4 different cities. That doesn't explain this loss. I do think it explains a little bit of the energy aspect, because the Celtics very clearly from the jump had more energy in this game. So that is just something that I think needs to be factored in just a little bit. All right, now I want to talk about the good, because I thought Jaylon Tyson, who got to start in place of Sam Merrill, I thought he looked pretty good in this game. I really did. I want to talk about his game and what to look forward to next right here on Locked on Cavs. But first, today's show brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That's SAD. Software as a service. And that is why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance, all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. Rippling removes the bottlenecks and busy work that slow teams down. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access automatically runs perfectly in sync. It's seriously simple to use and gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything that they touch. Whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or just fill in the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. So right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnba. That is rippling.com, rippling.com/lockedonnba, LOCKEDON NBA. Again, rippling.com/lockedonnba for 6 months free. Today's show also brought to you by Robinhood. Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. You play for the win, not just on game day, but every day, locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at robinhood.com/yourmoney. That is YOUR money. Again, robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On Cavs your first watch. Thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first watch on YouTube every single day. If you are watching, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. I thought Jaylon Tyson was one of, if not the bright spots for the Cleveland Cavaliers on Wednesday night against the Celtics. I thought this was very clearly the best game that he's had so far. He was 8 of 11 from the floor. He finished with a team-high 19 points. That is both good and bad. Like, I think if Jaylon Tyson is leading the team in scoring, probably not a great night for the team. Like, if he outscores Donovan Mitchell, it's either because he had an incredible night, and I don't think this was like some incredible night from Jaylon Tyson. I think he is more than capable of doing this, but more than likely means that some things didn't go as well as they could have in other places. But overall, I thought Jaylon was good. I thought he had very good activity. I thought this was the most confident that he's looked so far this season. I thought he did the little things really well. And it felt like he was kind of the only guy to do the little things well. And yes, he fouled out. And I think the physicality aspect of him, like, I think at times he can get a little overly physical, especially with the way the game is being officiated early on to start this season. So I think that is one thing, like, if you want to look at a negative, that certainly is part of it. But Jaylon Tyson going 8 of 11 for 19 points. Great night there. 5 rebounds, solid output from your starting shooting guard, 3 steals, very, very happy with. I do wonder if him starting at shooting guard, and he didn't play all of his minutes at shooting guard, obviously, but he played a chunk of them. I wonder if playing alongside some bigger players helped him, because I thought that, and maybe it was just because it was early in the season, but I thought there was a noticeable difference in him, the way that he played on Wednesday compared to the way that he played last Wednesday in New York, last Friday in Brooklyn. Like, I just thought that he looked like he had more juice, and maybe part of it is some of those other guys in the starting lineup have played heavier minutes than him. So maybe he just had a little bit more juice in this, third game in 4 nights. So that is something that maybe that factored into it. But overall, I thought this was easily Jaylon's best game of the season. I think this is something for him to build on, right? Like, one of the bright sides to the Cavs being as beat up as they are right now is this provides opportunities. This gives a guy like Jaylon Tyson an opportunity to have real meaningful NBA minutes in a way that, does he get real minutes if Sam is healthy? Yeah. But he doesn't play 27 minutes. And yeah, 2 of them came in garbage time at the end of the game, but he played 25 legitimate minutes in this game. And that opportunity right now is not available to him. So I thought it was a very good thing, the way that he took advantage of that opportunity. And his plus minus is -9, but it's also, that's a little bit misleading, because in the final 2 minutes that he played, the Cavs were -5, I believe it was. So that is like, it was more so like, Okay, instead of being -10, actually -5, which would have been the second best mark of all the starters. So I think that is something that just you should be happy with the way Jaylon Tyson played. I thought it was good. Doesn't mean that he should be in the starting lineup moving forward. I did think it was interesting that Dean Wade started the second half as opposed to Jaylon Tyson. I would imagine that was to try and get more rebounding on the floor. I don't know that necessarily worked. I mean, the Cavs were better in most aspects in the second half, if we're being honest. But the way that they played defensively, the way that they rebounded in the first half was completely unacceptable. But if you do want to find a bright spot to this game, it's Jaylon Tyson played very, very well. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked on Cavs. Thank you for making this your first listen. Thank you for making Locked on Cavs your first listen every single day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked on Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube as we get out of here, do us a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for us. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked on Cavs content. And I will be back tomorrow talking more about the Cleveland Cavaliers.